Hi there, my name is Steve, and welcome back to the Go Football podcast. So this is the podcast where we talk all about grassroots football. Whether you are a parent, player, coach, referee, just got love for the game, sit tight, you are in the right place. So this week on the episode and on the lineup, we are going to be talking about the new format of 3v3. Is it a good thing? Is it bad? We've got a few options for both. We've got a few opinions from both. So let's cue the whistle. Let's get started. So here we are back with the Go Football podcast. Now, a couple of apologies that are going out for this just going out a little bit later than I planned to. I've been ill. You can probably tell by my voice. This is probably the best my voice has sounded for about 10 days, which for anyone living with me has been a luxury. Apart from the coughing. But I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to get it out. But I didn't want to just do an episode where I was just croaking through and I was coughing constantly and all those different things. I actually wanted to try and be a little bit more professional, try and just, put something out there that you could listen to rather than thinking I'll turn that episode off. So, yeah, apologies for it being out a little bit later. But look, we're here now. I hope that everyone else is well and you've all had a boost of vitamin C and that you're all feeling as good as can be, really, especially with all the rain that we've been having. The weather's been terrible. Everyone's games have been getting called off. But, hopefully everyone's been nice and well and maybe indoors. Maybe you've had a few training sessions on. If you've been lucky enough to get one of those 4G pitches and you've been able to play one of those, well done. And congratulations, you've probably been in the very small percentage of people that have been able to play games this side of the new year, because honestly, not many games have been going on, really, have they? I think our game last week, we were supposed to be over in Wolverhampton. Friday night got called off. Luckily, there was another team in ours that I just got asked to go and caretake coach with them as well. It was great that they scored 5 goals. Shame that we didn't win the game, is all I can say with that one. Just need to defend corners a little bit better, I suppose. Maybe I'll tell their coach that, defending corners, definitely a priority for him. So, but look, well done to all the boys. I've been enjoying all sessions that I've been having. To say that I've been pretty ill with the voice. However, still managed to go training on Monday night. Thought I'd be fine. I was there, under 8s, under 11s, and under 9s as well, I think. Yeah, under 8s, under 9s, under 11s on a Monday night. But look, honestly, those sessions went really well. I probably got a little bit too excited, started shouting a little bit or trying to shout a little bit, and then completely lost my voice by Tuesday. But it's kind of back now, so swings and roundabouts, really. Like I said, if you live with me, it's been a luxury for a little while. So what's the episode about this week? Well, let's dive into this one. So look, I've done one of these before, talks about 3v3 football. Look, it is going to be coming in next season. It's going to be coming for the youngest age groups, those under 7s. I have seen a lot of negative about it, and I've also seen a lot of positive. I've been on a couple of webinars. I've done a bit of research. I've got some stats and figures for everyone. So listen, what do I think about it? My personal opinion on there. Let's start with that then, really. My personal opinion is it's going to be good. And I think it's going to be good for a couple of reasons. One is, I think that if you look at all the research that was done, it was done over 2 years, I think it was, over 40 countries, 400 clubs all across Europe. And they all came to kind of the same conclusions with it. Some of those conclusions were that the smaller sided games are better for development, especially at the youngest age groups. If you think about some of the younger age groups as well, and by the way, I love the younger age groups as well. If my kids could go back and play at that age group again, that's the age group that I would go and look at them when watching them play football, because that's when it was free for them to play, not free in as in money, but as well, but it was like free for them to play. They had no pressure. It was all about enjoyment. It was, it was great. And they were the best sort of times, really. But yeah, all of them came to the same conclusion, that moving from 5v5 to 3v3 under FutureFit framework as well is really going to, develop players. And there was a lot of science put behind it. What we have to remember is that football for young players looks different to what we watch. Even if we were to watch a game of 11 aside, they don't watch the game the same as what some adults will watch the game. Some adults will watch the game and they'll be like, the ball's got to move on here, the ball's got to do this, we've got to do that with the player, why is he not overlapping? I mean, look at that decision with Liverpool and Man City, If a young player was watching that under 7, they may not understand what's going on there. So we need to treat them like they're 7-year-olds first. And I think that, giving young players more involvement in the game, where there's more technical engagement, maybe it's more meaningful touches that they're going to be having of the ball. Because if they play five-a-side, they might touch the ball, but if all they're doing is just kicking it long, every time the ball comes to them, they kick it as far as they can do, probably not going to be developing as quick as what they might do by using the smaller format. So let me just go through some of these. I mean, this was done not just at grassroots levels, but also academies and everything in between. Like I say, 400 clubs across 40 countries over 2 years. They all came out with the same kind of figures. That was good for it. So listen, I'm going to read some of the stats off for them as well. So what are some of the good things that happened? So, and we always start with a nice hook, don't we, with this as well? Maybe I'm a bit too far in with a hook, but hopefully this will hook you in as well. 135% more passes made 3v3 to the traditional 5v5. That's a bonus for a lot of players because they're making good passes. It's not just kicking it long, it's not just touching the ball. Also, 260% more scoring opportunities. Absolutely brilliant. Let them score more. What's more fun than watching goals? Listen, no one cares if the score is 20, 21 at the end of whatever the time limit is that they're playing for. No one's really going to care about that, but 260% more chances as well. What else are they going to get? 225% more 1v1s. 280% more dribbles completed. And also 260% more scoring opportunities within there. Listen, if you want exciting football, and we often talk about some football teams, like maybe it's the team that you support in the Premier League or the Championship. We want exciting football. We don't want boring football. What's more exciting than all of those things put together for very, very young players? Look, more dribbling, more passing, more shooting, more 1v1s. They're all the kind of things that we want to put into football that players are going to need to have. Now, what they also found was that the games that they had in this 2 years where they used the 3v3 and then went to 5v5s, they were able to use those skills better. So arguably, I would say that it was better for them to be able to watch the 5v5 games because they'd have played 3v3 first. That's only a bonus. If you want to go and watch a good 5v5 game, that is an absolute bonus for them to be able to have. So I think it's a real good thing. They were some of the stats. So let's get into some of the stuff. So yeah, some of the other things that are also real beneficial as well, decision making and some tactical decisions that they're going to have to make as well. With only 3 players on 3 a side, no fixed positions. It's great for kids as well. It means they're going to have to think for themselves. They're going to have to make quick decisions. They're going to need to do things like reading space, anticipating what teammates are going to be doing, and also their opponents too. And they're all going to do that in real time. And they're going to do it way, way more than they would do if they were doing it at 5-a-side. The cognitive load is more on them for them to be able to in the actual games as well, and they're also going to be learning football intelligence. And look, just going back to the 3v3. Every single coach, do you do small-sided games and do you do some practices, maybe some drills, maybe some games where you have a 3v3? Even if you've got an 11-a-side team, so even if you've got an under-15s, under-16s and 17s, or even an adult game, how many times are you playing a game that's much smaller? Like maybe it's 3v3, maybe it's 4v4, but what are you getting out of those? You're getting more touches, getting more goal scoring opportunities, more dribbles. You're getting everything else that the kids are getting out of it too. So let's just consider that the football for younger people is a little bit different, and we're also using these kind of small-sided drills anyway when they get older. So as they're getting older, if they're going to be practicing these 3v3s, they're going to have been doing it for a little bit longer, but just that extra development of a year, I don't think is going to harm them at all doing that. If you think about it, the players can be involved maybe every 30 seconds or even less. What's more exciting than that in this kind of game and this format as well? Like I say, the decision makings that they're going to have to do as well. They're going to have to make them loads quicker. Imagine if they're making them quicker for that year when they go to 5v5, how much better that is for everyone to watch, but also for them to go and play. Because what we get in 5v5 sometimes, and I've refereed 5v5 games and been involved in 5v5 games, sometimes you'll get a couple of players that they're kind of hiding in there, or they're not doing quite as much as what they should be doing. But for the younger players that are maybe would be seen as the weaker ones, they're going to get more opportunities to have more touches in a game environment, decide whether it's the right thing for them to do or not. And a lot of the time, I think it's going to be good. Look, all the stats didn't come out from all of these other countries for no reason. They all came with the same conclusion at the end of it, which is 3v3 is a great format. And, they do use this format across a lot of other places. something I didn't realise until I looked into it. Pardon me, I told you I was ill. I'd been ill as well. First cough of the podcast as well. So apologies for that one. But look, if you look at like Belgium and places in Europe, and I didn't know this until I'd done a bit of research on Belgium as well, but they play their under-6 teams often play 2v2. And then they also play that under sevens go to 3v3, which is a bit younger than what we do. But yeah, it's giving kids like immediate involvement and lots of ball time in a playful, engaging environment. As long as all the people on the outside are also engaging with it, it should be really, really great. Now, I know there's been a lot of concerns with that too. Things like we're going to need more coaches. I think a lot of these have been kind of quashed already, but you don't need any more coaches for it. Need more pitches. Don't need any more pitches. It's half a five-a-side pitch. Rather than having 10 players on the pitch, you're just going to have 12 on there at any one time. Plus, you're going to be able to roll them on and off as and when you need to, which is great. No subs. Everyone gets full playing time. There's no someone's been sat on the bench for this amount of time, that amount of time, anything like that. But you know, they use this format in lots of different places. I think even with Belgium, I don't think they go to 9v9. I think they do 8v8. I'll need to check that and just make sure that I'm 100% right with it. But I'm pretty certain that they do. But organisations over in America, I believe America, they do a lot of the 3v3. They call it World Soccer, but we know it's football, right? And they run tournaments on that, and there's like hundreds of people go to those tournaments. In the UK now, there's the 3v3 tournaments that are happening all over the place. You know, I've seen fields filled with those inflatable pitchers where they've just put them down and they've got on there. And I believe I've never seen anyone say anything negative about one of those. Only the 3v3 format, but not about one of those tournaments. They've all kind of enjoyed those. Looking at I love the 3v3 kind of sports anyway, whether it's basketball too. I love the 3v3 basketball. I think it was on at the Olympics last time I was watching. I was like, wow, this is really good. This is really quick. This is really fast. And, you know, having an interest in basketball anyway, right up my kind of street with it. But I mean, look, so let's just look at it then from a coach's perspective. 3v3, does it have any clear advantages as coaches? And for the coaching staff, look, I definitely think that there's going to be. One is that there's no goalkeepers. And I understand the argument against it, that we want to be able to have goalkeepers at the youngest ages if they want to be goalkeepers. But now, the best goalkeepers in the world are used so frequently as almost as sweepers and as outfield players that they've got to be good with their feet. You know, they don't need to be able to dive around and do all of those things at the very youngest of ages. What we have to remember is that they are kids. And, you know, I would say that even the older age groups don't get enough time training as goalkeepers. If any goalkeeper coaches want to come in on that, that would be great. But I genuinely think that most goalkeepers, even for the older age groups, they are just used for outfield players to take shots at. They're not taught how to dive correctly. They're not taught about the K shape. They're not taught about their near post and how to come out. They're not taught about how to look on the line and down the line. They're not taught how to look at play beyond, play into, play onto, play round, play through. They're not taught all of those things, which most goalkeepers would do. And I noticed that because a lot of people that come to me that are a little bit older for goalkeeper training never had any goalkeeper training, but they've been playing for 10 years. So I'm not going to buy that as an actual excuse of we're putting off goalkeepers. Now, there's some exceptions to that, I appreciate, and there's some great goalkeepers. In fact, you know, I've seen some very young players making some outstanding saves, probably better than most adults can do. But in general, I think that a lot of goalkeepers are given that. And also, even the goalkeepers that are making those outstanding saves, they're still going to need to be able to use their feet. So let them have this as an experience of being able to not have to dive around at the youngest of age groups. I think that's really, really good. Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of other benefits, you know. Think about it from a coach's. What's the main thing that a coach always asks on not on a WhatsApp group, on a forum, or on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, those kind of things, TikTok maybe? Has anyone got an app to help me work out how to do my subs? That is a common question that you always see. Now, for me, really easy because I take 3 subs, we're 9 aside, so I just make 3 changes. We play 20 minutes, play 80-minute games for the lads as well in the JPL. So we do 3 changes all the way through. Everyone gets 60 minutes of an 80-minute game. Easy for me. Some people don't have that option of been able to make it quite as easy. I mean, sometimes they have a little bit of change in that, but that's generally how mine works. But yeah, that is another question to also have, you know, like no goalkeepers. We're not going to have to do any of those. I think communication's probably going to be a little bit easier as well. For a lot of players, we're not going to be thinking about too much about the tactics. It's more about play, involvement, making decisions, and getting all of the extra benefits that I've kind of mentioned as well, of that, the passes, scoring opportunities, goals, 1v1s, and completed dribbles. Sorry, I had to read those again. But just to make sure I got them all in there, just proving that I've actually done some research for this week. So, but I think, look, overall, the overwhelming information that came out of it when they put all of the data together over 2 years and all of this was, this is great for development for young players. And if it is, why don't we do that? I think that some young players, it's very easy for them to not participate in sport because they feel like they're out of it. I think it'll build confidence really quickly. I think it might, hopefully it'll reduce the dropout rates that we get and boost self-esteem for very young players that are right at the very start of it, where they have to be involved, and we're kind of not forcing them to be involved, but we're encouraging them to be more involved, more frequently within a small space of time for a game. And I think that's only going to be a good thing. Now, what do we need to watch out for? Yeah, we need to look out. There's going to be a number of things, isn't there, really, that we're going to have to look out for, or things we want. But, the transfer of skills into large format. How do we get 3v3 into 11-a-side? How does that work? Well, kind of mentioned earlier, 11-a-side teams, we're probably still playing some 3v3 or small format games along those lines too. But I do understand that, we're playing in very tight spaces. As soon as we start making those pictures, doubling it and doubling it and doubling it, and next week I'm going to talk about, the difference of going from 5v5 to 7v7 and 9v9 to 11v11 and the differences that people can maybe find with that. Yeah, that can sometimes be a bit of a struggle. So when we're looking at some of the negatives from it, is that one of the negatives? Yeah, potentially. Yeah, absolutely. But we're giving them more chance to have the skills when the ball's at their feet, which is what we want. If we can get the ball at their feet more and give them more time on the ball and let their football abilities grow, that's going to be much better for a lot of them. I also think that the rules may be a little bit different for some people to understand. When you first watch a 3v3 game, you're like, there's no goalkeepers, the ball's bouncing all over the place as well. It's very quick, there's no subs, everything's just hyper. Sometimes it's hard to see that, and sometimes that maybe not be able to translate into understanding space later on with some games. Like I say, what does it restrict, really? This is what I find that 3v3 games always restrict when I'm playing with the older boys that are playing in larger formats of football, is that it restricts their running sometimes, their running angles. So if we're trying to play things like straight passes, diagonal runs, sometimes that is hindered by the smaller spaces. But sometimes we can maybe get around some of those things, but maybe that's why we see more 1v1. So there are going to be a few, what I would say, maybe possibly negatives with it, which is going to be those kind of things. Like if we're looking to do core moves, how many times we're going to get a wall pass into a first time finish, maybe get loads of them in this. But we're probably not going to see many underlaps, overlaps, for example, because the space is going to be too small, or we'll run off the pitch, especially if they're going to be playing in the inflatable ones too. So, look, there's a few things like that I think that we maybe just need to consider. And also, I think that one of the other things that is probably going to come out of this, although I think it also comes out of 5v5 and 7v7, is that if you've got one very, very dominant player, they are just going to run the game, and it's going to be a 1v3, and, if no one can get near that player. However, that's going to happen at every format that we have, which is why you sometimes see that at 5v5 already and 7v7. I mean, like, I've seen some 7v7 games where it's been a one-man show. Like, there's been one player who's just so much better than the rest of the players that are there. He's been able to absolutely run the show. Every time the ball's to his feet, no one can take the ball off him. His shots are coming in from left, right, and centre. He's faster, he's quicker. May not translate into 11-a-side, but definitely those age groups, so much different. But that's going to be the same as a 5v5 or 7v7. Going to get a 3v3. Hopefully that most coaches are going to be nice and fair. They're going to try and mix their teams up as much as what they can do, so that it's going to be fair games and that everyone gets all of the benefits that we're seeing when all the research was done. I think that's going to be a really good thing. Like I say, I understand that people are going to be thinking that we need to get extra equipment. I think the FA have already announced that they're going to be doing some funding for some clubs to have the goals, but the goals not that expensive to have, especially if you're going to be sharing a pitch and you're going to have 12 on the pitch rather than 10 that are going to be there, which is, like I say, great for more kids playing, better for everyone, right? Everyone's going to enjoy that more. So, look, that's been 3v3. That was my little thoughts on 3v3, and I don't want to go on about it for too long. One, because I'm probably going to cough soon. But the other one is, I think there's some really good benefits. And I think if we just strip it back into thinking, even at 11 aside, we play 3v3 games. And why do we play them? What do we get out of them? And it is more passes, more touches, more scoring opportunities, more 1v1s, faster reactions, more decision making, all of the things that we get out of them. Well, older age groups just means that the youngest age groups are going to get that a little bit earlier, and they're going to get more ball time, more game time, because there's no subs. So I think it's going to be a positive thing, but we also need to look out for all those negatives, which are going to be, player domination that's going to be in there too. It's going to be, can we translate the size of the pitches? Can we do all of the moves that we want to be able to do in a game? Will it hinder things like runs? Will it hinder things like spacing, timing, all of those different things? Look, I think what we need to do is we all need to get behind it for at least a season or two. Although I do know that there's a couple of leagues and a couple of counties which are not going to be running the 3v3. They're going to go straight to 5v5. So it'll be very interesting to see what the counties that are running the 3v3 find as a benefit, and was there any benefit for those counties that were running it as opposed to the ones that weren't running it. So look, we're going to know about this time next year. We might have to jump on and do a review of the 3v3 of how well has it gone, what happened, what was everyone's thoughts on it, is everyone settled with it now? Because everyone had the same ideas regarding this no headers rule that came in. Everyone thought the same, like, oh, it's not football, it's not this, it's not that. I don't hear anyone mention about it now as well. It's just the norm, really, isn't it? So, look, let's end the podcast there, because I'm about to have a coughing fit. I'm going to try to get through this last little bit as quick as I can. Look, honestly, thank you so much for everyone that listened last week too. There was a massive uptake in listeners last week. Don't know what it was. Don't know if it's because I did a little advert for it and posted it into a few places. I'm not sure. But one morning I opened it up and I'd probably got about 60 downloads, more than what I was expecting to have had on that one day as well. So, but that's might not sound loads to everyone as well. That's massive for me as well. So if you have been sharing or you've been posting it, letting your friends know, I really appreciate that. But again, if you want to get in contact, it's gofootballpod@gmail.com. Get me on all the socials too. So you can get me on Facebook, Twitter, not so much Twitter or X. I don't log on to it too much as well. But look, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and obviously you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Casterbox. Look, I've been Steve at the Go Football Podcast. I enjoy talking to you every week, and I'm glad that you've come back and that you kind of enjoy listening to me, although this week might be a little bit of a struggle because not very well. So I will see you all next week, and have a great weekend.